Hello, everyone. This is Daniel Michael, founder, co-creator of the Main Street Universe Radio Network. And it's a little before 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm here at Fairground Park in Washington County. And today I wanted to talk about brief Main Street Universe announcements and talk a little bit about complacency. As I touched on in the last video, a little bit about stagnation and complacency, boredom, how it applies to recovery and just to life in general. One thing we can find ourselves doing, even if we're busy people, is getting depressed. One of my favorite quotes is that the opposite of depression is movement, and there's real truth in that quote. Again, nothing is absolute. Everything that I would talk about, and that I am talking about, is about lessening the odds of failure in a particular situation. It's not about perfection. It's not about absolutes. And even though those of you that know me, I'm very much into metaphysical and magical things, it's not about a secret of the universe. One thing I can't stand, and then I'll move on to my depression thing, is I'm incredibly burnt out on a lot of metaphysical gurus right now. And some of my future guests that I'm going to bring on are not going to be in the esoteric direction. They're going to be people that I just find interesting or quirky in some way. I am completely burnt out on phony New Age spiritual leaders. I can't stand when I go to listen to a song on YouTube, for example, and then somebody goes, "So, your business is failing," as he gets out of his Lamborghini. "Well, you've been praying wrong the whole time." You know, whatever. I can't even stand to look at these folks anymore. And I certainly don't want people to think, just because of my path of being a mystic, that I'm somehow allied with these folks, because I'm not. You can see your professional motivational speakers, some of which I listen to sometimes, but I'm not one of them either. I hope that something I can say can help people, and some of it is just for my own expression. So you could use the example of Bob Proctor from the movie The Secret. Now, here's a guy who his course costs $5,000 for a couple of months. If you pay him for a public speaker, Bob Proctor from the movie The Secret is where he's known before that, but that's where some people might know him from. A movie talking about the law of attraction. Again, nothing wrong with it. Neuro-linguistic programming is a good therapeutic thing. A secret of the universe, they wrap it up in a burrito and charge a fortune to regurgitate information that you can find very cheaply or free. And in the case of Mr. Proctor, he makes about $50,000 per engagement if you go and try to book him. Now, that's $50,000 to regurgitate, perhaps, Think and Grow Rich, a book from Napoleon Hill, you can buy in a thrift store for $10. Or look up various YouTube videos. Why get the guy to show up in person in the online age? Do I have anything against him? No. And he's actually motivated a lot of people to do a lot of good. I'm all for motivational speakers. What I'm talking about is when they cross the line, charge ridiculous amounts of money, and then come across as if they have a secret answer. And unfortunately, there is no secret answer. Or I would say, fortunately, there is no secret answer. The answer is daily, it's boring, and it's work, and it's motivation on a daily level. As I always say, you are what you wake up and do every single day. So, as much as I believe in magic and mysticism, those things are what you do to aid you. You don't magic your way out of a situation, but you can magic your way through a situation, meaning as an aid or a guide to help you in your daily practice, as faith is an important component in the human condition, in the human existence. in the human equation. So movement, whenever people decide to take on a path of doing something productive, and even people that get busy, and I've heard this before. I've heard people say, I was busy, I'm a single mom, for example, and I still feel worthless, I still feel depressed. And now it becomes about proper movement. Just busy work, yeah, it can help, but it doesn't exactly get the job done. You have to feel like you're taking a step in a direction that makes you feel more like yourself. That's why I discussed in the trance episode about finding things that you are passionate about. My intellectual opponents in the recovery world, being AA, say it's not about what you want anymore, it's about what you need. Well, that works for about a week, but at some point you have to claim your will again. And you have to claim something that makes you thrive and feel alive and want to wake up in the morning. Just taking care of what you need, that's a beginning. That's just taking step number one, basically, as far as movement goes. So then your movements, in my personal opinion, have to involve things that you're passionate about. They have to involve something, and it can be something very simple. It can be volunteering at a charity that takes care of animals, for example, or volunteering for a community garden. In fact, those are two guests that I plan on having on Main Street Universe sometime in the near future, because I like the idea of urban. I live in a city, and I like the idea of urban farming. Whatever the thing is, be it artistic, be it some sort of charity, or even taking up a good cause, or any kind of activity that helps make you feel more you and more alive. And as I've said before, for me personally, I have to incorporate something physical. So when I don't, I really feel the difference. So I'm about to do my morning workout, as well as the breath work and all those things that I've talked about. And there's plenty of days where you don't want to. And then you thank yourself later when you do. And there's plenty of times where I cheat and I don't do it. But it's what you do about 80% of the time. One personal trainer told me one time that it's the 80-20 rule. If you're kind of doing the right thing 80% of the time, then if you struggle on your diet or enjoy yourself on your diet, how would I say it that way instead of making everything combat, then go ahead, 20% of the time. The Rock, the famous actor, Dwayne Johnson, allows himself Sunday to eat absolutely whatever he wants. Now, he works out like a beast all week, and he drinks tequila. But he allows himself those kind of pleasures 20% of the time, basically. So the 80-20 rule is a good one. Don't always think everything is absolute. You don't have to just quit everything you love. What it is doing the right thing most of the time. And you'll find, or I find, that you have the energy to live. The depression can still happen. When I get bored, or feel uninspired, I will sometimes just do something as simple as do 10 push-ups, then maybe a breathwork thing, but that's something I'm really into. You may not be into that. And then just try to do anything to sort of kind of shock my body a little bit into snapping out of the complacent doldrum depression, because intercepting that is so much. It's absolutely critical in recovery. Intercepting, the way of the intercepting fist, as Bruce Lee said, intercepting that bored headache that you get, I'll call it a headache, and sometimes it may manifest in a headache. Intercepting that is everything. It literally is the answer. In a very real world, in the moment way. If you can stop that moment from taking over, then your chances of a good recovery increase by about 80%, back to 80% again. And I completely believe that. And there's that 20% time you'll relapse. Sometimes just nothing will work, and then you don't beat yourself up. You just get back on the horse and go back to doing the right thing 80% of the time. It's why I don't set unnecessary stressful standards in recovery. I say I'm in what they call the harm reduction camp. Some folks in Smart Recovery and other organizations think a little more along my lines, especially with alcohol. I can't say that for other substances, but like if somebody continues to use cannabis, I'm all for it. If they want to use psychedelic therapy, I'm all for it. If it's not a destructive, addictive substance or if you go back to moderate drinking, I'm all for it. That's becoming a bit more common now in the rehab industry, in the rehab world, in the recovery world, where the AA model's fading because it just doesn't feel all that realistic. So I personally haven't been addicted to alcohol since May of 2022. And again, that's my personal story. I'm a person of action and a person who is very real. And watch how I move, and you can ignore what I say. Anyway, remember that movement is the opposite of depression. And another layer on top of that is inspired movement. Neuro-linguistic programming is therapeutic and is very real. And you can get it in sources that don't require you to pay a life coach $5,000. So find your inspiration, because that's all those answers, those quote secrets unquote, they're inside of you. Thank you, and have a good Tuesday.